Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to the first tank review of patch 9.0, and we're here with the VK2801 German tier 6 light tank. But before we get onto that, just have a look around here. Isn't the hangar pretty? And this is, I completed a mission that gave me 3 days of premium account, so this is the premium hangar, but I'm honestly not sure if this... Oh yes, it is slightly different. I was going to say if this is any different to the standard hangar, but yes, it is a little bit different. I can't remember in what ways, I just remember that that motorbike just over there was in a slightly different position. Anyway, look at the pretties. Isn't it nice? Sorry, I'm getting horribly distracted. So the last couple of reviews that I've done have also been of light tanks. It was the Stuart and the T1E6, and now we're going to move on to the Germans. So this is the German tier 6 light tank entry, as I said, and what do you get for your money? Well, 610 hit points, that's not, you know, massively different, I don't think. It's a bit more than the MT25, for example. So it's not too bad hit point wise, but the fact of the matter is a few hit points here or there is very unlikely to save your hide, but it's nice to have. It weighs 27 tons. Weight limit 29, which for a light tank is damn heavy, and that is one of the primary features of this tank, but we'll get onto that in a second. Combine that with the engine power and you get a power to weight ratio of 24 horsepower per ton, which is not too bad. I'm not going to compare it to the MT25 because I don't have that fully upgraded yet, but comparing it to the WZ, that's better than the WZ. But it must be said, maybe it's the track resistance, but it feels kinda sluggish. Ditto, it has a traverse speed of 46 degrees a second, turret traverse of 44 degrees a second, but they all feel just a bit more sluggish than that, to be honest. Armour, 50-30-30 on the hull, 50-30-30 on the turret, identical. That's not a lot, but as far as light tanks go, and I'm going to compare it to the MT25, I was about to say, as far as light tanks go, that's pretty good, but actually it's not that much more than the MT25. It is a little bit more. And you do have some half-decent sloping going on. So whilst people aren't going to be aiming for weak spots, you can get some, you know, miracle bounces, if you will, off of this angled upper front plate. And also if people put shots into your gun mantlet, sometimes that will eat the shots. View range of 390 meters, which is pretty good. All told, I mean, you know, that's pretty good. Signal range 710, yeah, sure, seems legit. What about the gun? Well, there's a whole raft of different guns you can get for this thing. If you have not played down any of the other German tech lines, then you're going to have to play with the stock gun, this 50mm gun, 5cm gun, and that's going to hurt. Because this gun is okay on a tier 3 machine, it's looking a little bit ropey, you know, it's alright on a tier 4 machine, it's bad on a tier 5 machine, on a tier 6 machine that gets scouts matchmaking and so can see tier 7 games. Sorry, tier 7? Can see tier 10 games. No, just no, it's horrible. There's a raft of 75mm guns, each one progressively less garbage than the last, but none of them particularly good. You know, these are the sort of 75 and 50mm guns that the tier 3 to 5, shall we say, tier 3 to 6 really, German medium tanks tend to use. And then you have the money shot. In my opinion, this is the best gun for this tank. It's the 105mm howitzer, the derp gun, and this is, to all intents and purposes, for those that have played it, the same gun that you get on the Hetzer at tier 4 as a tank destroyer. But on a light tank it doesn't work too badly. If you choose this gun, and I do heartily recommend that you do, I would not suggest the ammo loadout I've got here. So I would, let's just bring up the stats of the gun. I mean, we could quickly talk about the gun, but frankly it's a howitzer, you know what you're getting, its accuracy is garbage, the rate of fire is not too bad, the aim time's okay. Armour piercing, on the left here, 64 pen, 350 damage, really wouldn't bother with it because if it doesn't pen it won't do any damage, and with 64 pen it's not going to pen a lot. On the far right hand side we have high explosive here. This in my opinion should be your main ammo type, 410 damage, 53 penetration, but because it's high explosive, if it doesn't pen your target you can still do some damage. Heat ammo in the middle, now this is your premium ammunition, I would say, unlike my loadout, I would say carry a few rounds of this. Why? Because, you know, for those times when, for example, you've got an IS-3, but you've got him from behind, and a heat shell can go through with some reliability, and then you will get a penetration and do 350 damage a shot, rather than just the explosive damage from a HE round doing about 100. So I would recommend carrying a few rounds of heat ammo, but don't expect to use it an awful lot. Yeah, so what is the grind like? And then I'm actually going to get back onto how this tank kind of plays. So if we have a look at the German tech tree, we are down here. So the VK's here. If we follow it along, how do you get to it? Well, you get to it. There are two ways to get to it. You can go from either the Panzer I or the Panzer II. The Panzer II is probably the better machine of the two. It gets a better gun. They both can only take autocannons. But the Panzer II gets better armour. Although the Panzer I do believe gets limited matchmaking. So, you know, take your choice. The real difference is whether you want to play the Panzer IIG at tier 3 or the Panzer IC. So, the Panzer IC is a machine that I think everybody's come across by now. It's ridiculously fast, has a machine gun of death, it is a lot of fun, and in platoons it's positively overpowered. However, it's a machine gun. The penetration's not very good, and it sees tier 5 games. I mean, there are tier 3s that, especially if they know what they're doing, this thing will struggle against. The Panzer IIG, on the other hand, doesn't get quite the same burst damage potential, and it's not quite so quick, but it does get higher penetration on its autocannon, and I would suggest you use the autocannon. So, I mean, these two tanks, take your pick. These two, it's really a matter of opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to spend very long here either way. Perhaps, if you're just interested in these for the purposes of grinding, I guess I would recommend taking the Panzer II route, simply because if you've used the Panzer II and you've unlocked everything, so you've unlocked the Panzer IIG and the Panzer IIIA, you have opened up, you've opened up like a whole raft of German tech lines, because going down either one of, going from here, you can get down the German light line, which eventually branches into one of the medium lines. You can go down that medium line directly without going down the light tanks at all. You can come up here, go into the DW2, up into the VK3001H, and then into either the original German medium line or the German heavy line with the Tiger. Or you can come up here, go into the Panzer IV, from the Panzer IIIA, go to the Panzer IVA, the Panzer IVD, the Panzer IVH, and then go to either of the German heavy lines. So basically, from the Panzer II, you can open up anything that isn't a tank, destroyer, or artillery. So I guess I'd kind of have to recommend going through the Panzer II then. Anyway, once you've gone past tier 3, you get into the Lux, which is by all accounts a very fun little machine. If it weren't a tank that got scout matchmaking, then it would arguably be a bit overpowered, but it's very fast, very mobile, an awful lot of fun, but it is a tier 4 light tank, specifically a tier 4 scout, so it will get scout matchmaking and will sometimes see tier 7 and 8 games where you are a dedicated scout, don't expect to do a lot of damage. Then you come into the Leopard, and the Leopard and the VK kind of play in a similar manner. The Leopard, the gun is not particularly good. It's the same gun from the Lux, and it's actually the same gun you were using on the Panzer IIG. It's got some buffed stats like rate of fire, but it's really looking rather ropey here. And the Leopard is, well, frankly not a great machine, and I can't really recommend it. And then you get onto the VK, which is where we are now. So what does the VK actually play like? Well, basically what you have is a tank with a reasonable top speed, but it takes some time to accelerate up to that top speed, with not bad armour for a light tank, and with a howitzer. This thing likes going in a straight line. It does not like turning, it does not like dogfighting with anyone, it is not very agile. It bleeds speed like you would not believe in corners. It is, however, one of the best light tanks at ramming. And so I guess this thing's speciality is finding a target that is lighter / more weakly armoured than itself, driving up to it, derping it with the howitzer, and finishing it off with a ram. You know, 27 tons of tank going at 60 kilometers an hour, gonna do a fair amount of damage. However, this should come with a warning, a health and safety warning. Pick your targets with care. Don't go ramming anything you come across. I mean, if this thing rams a KV-5, for example, the KV-5 is gonna win, and it's not even gonna notice you ramming into it. So do be very careful. Sorry, yeah, I'm not a massive fan of this. I just realised that I mentioned the grind going through previous tanks, but I haven't mentioned the grind itself when you get here. So this grind is very much dependent on whether or not you've played other German tanks. If you have not, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt a lot. I mean, do you even get... no. If you have not played any previous German tanks, you are basically completely stock. You have no upgrades whatsoever. I don't even think you've got the radio. Don't think so. You might have the radio or something, but this is going to be horrible. The gun you want is here. These 50 and 75mm guns, these are actually just a sideline. You don't need them at all. Having said that, I mean, yeah, if you don't pick them, you have to grind out the 5,500 experience for the turret, and then the 4,000 experience, so that's, you know, basically 10,000 experience with this 50mm gun, which will hurt. The engine is a nice upgrade. You can get by with the stock engine, but the Maybach engine is a nice upgrade. And then you, so I would recommend getting these guns because they're not very expensive. I mean, this is 800 experience, 2,100, 3,400. They're not a huge amount of experience. They will make your grind easier. This gun is not great, but it does make your life easier. And also, these guns are used on other German machines, so it's not a wasted investment. Once you've ground out all this, you then have to grind out 43,100 XP for the Aufklärungspanzer, which is, I haven't played it yet, but by all accounts it's a pretty subpar machine. It's not very popular. Once you get to the Aufklärungspanzer, you can go to the Indian Panzer, Leopard Prototype A and the Leopard 1. This is essentially an alternate way of getting along the second German medium line that culminates in the Leopard 1. I'm trying to be nice to this. I'm trying very hard, but I honestly don't like it. I've played 80 odd games in it. I have now researched the Aufklärungspanzer. Once I finish this review, I'm going to sell it and I'm not going to look back. It is... it's a very niche machine. It does one thing, going in a straight line, fairly fast, and it does that reasonably. It doesn't do it well. It's not really good at anything, and it's just... it's a frustrating tank to play. We'll get into a replay in a sec and you'll see what I mean. I'm not going to go through the armour on this because it's a light tank, and despite being one of the most heavily armoured light tanks, it's a light tank. I mean, if someone wants to pen you, they're probably going to pen you, and there's probably not a lot you're going to do about it. If you're relying on your armour in this, you are doing it wrong. So let's just hop straight into the game. I've only got one game for you because I couldn't bring myself to put others up. I have got some other replays in this. If you're interested, by all means have a look. But yeah, let's jump into the game and then I'll give some concluding remarks afterwards. Here's the game I wanted to show you. So this is an encounter game on, you know, the name of the map has just fallen out of my head. Nope, can't remember. This map. Oh, I'll think of it at some point, I'm sure. Prokhorovka, that's the one. So it's an encounter game, and you'll notice there is very favourable matchmaking for me. This is a tier 7 game, but there are only 2 tier 7 tanks on each team. Now, what I try and do is show you guys a match with favourable matchmaking and a match with rubbish matchmaking. But I'm going to be honest, I have this replay, this happens to have favourable matchmaking, and I really don't want to faff around waiting for a match with bad matchmaking just to show you, because I'll be honest, in case you haven't gathered already, really not a fan of this machine. I will grind it, I will unlock the awful Panther, and then I will sell it so fast. Anyway, we're just scouting out the mid-ridge along here, and let's be honest, basically what having favourable matchmaking means in this machine is that I can take a couple more hits than I normally would. There are fewer tanks that are going to one-shot me. In fact, there's not a single tank on the enemy team that's likely to one-shot me, except possibly the artillery, I don't know. And you can see this thing bleeds off so much speed in the turns. Oh god, it's horrible. Now I'm using the 105mm howitzer. I don't have any ammunition loaded other than high explosive, because why would you? I don't rate armor piercing on this gun, and I'm really not a fan of the heat ammo. I'd rather just load high explosive and derp away. So I'm just trying to use a bit of speed to scout out this mid-ridge and see who's there. Now, slightly disconcertingly, we don't have anybody on the 1 or 2 lines, and that's worrying me a bit. So I'm just running over there, and you can see that, you know, the top speed of this thing's good, but considering it's a light tank, the engine's a bit weedy. And it's quite a heavy machine for a light tank. And so yeah, we can do like over 60 kph, which is nice, but a lot of the time, especially if you have the audacity to try and change direction, a lot of the time you're going to be doing closer to 40 or 50, which is okay, but it just feels a bit sluggish. It's ugh. Anyway, I'm going to stop complaining about it, I swear. So I'm just going to try and poke my nose up here and see if I can spot anyone. And I'm trying to stay moving. And now I'm going to put myself in this bush. And, oh, I thought I was going to let my binos come up there, but obviously I got a bit paranoid and thought, I don't like this. I'm worried that someone over there is going to have spotted me going into that bush and is just going to nail me. But, you know, let's have the conviction of, nope, I really don't like that idea. Okay, fair enough. There, however, is a T-49, so let the gun aim, and bang, and one shot. And you can see there, I mean, this is a howitzer. It sort of lobs the shell at them, at the enemy, and there's a very high trajectory of the shell. But anyway, you know, we've fired one shot that actually hit its target so far, and it one-shotted a tier 5 tank destroyer, which is nice. I suppose that's another difference really that being top tier makes in this thing. There are some targets out there that you can really ruin the day of. Or more targets that you can really ruin the day of. I mean, you're not going to one-shot anything in like a tier 9 game unless you're referring to an enemy scout. And then, even then, you're probably not going to. So I decide, well, balls to this. And so we move forwards. There was a tank destroyer ahead of me, it's like a T-49. He got about as far as B2 before he was finished off, possibly by the medium tank just over there, the Type T-34, Chinese tier 5 medium. Oh, someone gets a shot on him. I put one in for 154 and someone else polishes him off. Now, there's a tank destroyer just over there on the train tracks. There's that Stug from earlier on. We take a shot. I don't really expect it to hit, but I'm not going to stop for him. I'm just going to keep barreling forwards. We're winning this game 6-5, which is quite nice. And I'm waiting for someone to, you know, nail this guy. I'm lighting him up. I'm not going over that ridge just yet. And I'm also not going to stay still because, you know how much artillery likes shooting light tanks? Well, yeah. And in this situation, that wouldn't necessarily be a stupid idea, because it's not as if I'm even bottom tier or something. We have a looks for that, or had a looks for that. So our team is winning 7-5, and yep, just going to poke my nose up and spot some things. Trying to get some vision on a pair of tank destroyers. And I'm just pondering my options right now. I think I decide at this point that, you know what, sod it, I am going to go over that ridge, but if I'm going to go over that ridge, I'm going to get up a bit of a head of steam. So the engine power on this thing may not be particularly good, but the top speed isn't too bad, and if I can get some momentum, I can hopefully just plough over the top. And there we go, got 17. Wow, and ram. And you can see there that we did 101 damage to him just by ramming, and he did less damage than that to us. So if you're careful with what targets you pick, you can do a respectable amount of damage by ramming people, which is nice. And oh, artillery just revealed themselves and he got wrecked for his trouble. There's an SU up there. I put a shot into his side for 185 and track him. Nashorn. Ugh, Nashorn misses. Oh, I miss because the gun depression on this is woeful, and I just clipped a little rise in the terrain. He's the only guy left though. I'm coming up here. I might take a shot, but I want to try and make my shot count, and pop. There we go. High explosive shell into the top of a Nashorn, 307, and he is dead, and that is the game won. So, having had that game, we'll just quickly nip back to the garage and have a few concluding remarks. So that was the replay, and I've actually just realised that I haven't given you an idea of equipment and crew skills for this. So let me just quickly go through that, and then I'll round up with my thoughts overall. So, firstly, crew skills. This is a light tank, 6th sense. You can see I'm training it now. I haven't got it to 100%. I wish I did. Don't pay too much attention to these crew skills, because these are actually for a medium crew. I have no intention whatsoever of keeping this, and I'm probably not going to keep the tank after it. I don't like the German lights, I'll be honest. So these are going to go in like the other German medium line that this leads on to. So what would I recommend? 6th sense on your commander, preventative maintenance on your driver, because this thing does catch fire. Everyone else, camo, probably. It's a light tank, you probably don't want to be seen, be my recommendation. Although, let's just get this out of the way. I just want to say this quickly. There's the VK. There's the VK 3002M, like the prototype Panther. The VK 2801 is huge, especially for a light tank. It's massive. I mean, here's the T34 one. Look at it. It's ginormous. Here's the T34. Now let's go back to the VK. Good God, it's massive for a light tank. Anyway, so yeah, crew skills, 6th sense, preventative maintenance, camo on everyone else. Equipment, again, don't pay too much attention to what I've got here. I would say, if you're planning on keeping this, binocular telescopes, maybe. Coated optics, because this is not really a passive scout. You can use it to passive scout, but that's not really what it is. It likes to keep moving. So coated optics is not a terrible idea. Buff the view range a bit. What else? Improve vents isn't a terrible idea. If you're going to go the ramming route, spool liner. Not an awful idea, I guess. Camo net, yeah, it's a light tank. You could do torsion bars on a light tank. Also not a bad idea. Give your tracks some more durability. Or ammo rack, I haven't noticed any ammo rack problems. Gun rammer, yeah, you could increase your rate of fire. Binos and optics already talked about. Enhanced gun lane drive, extra 10% to aiming speed, you could, but I haven't noticed it takes too long to aim. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Fill tanks with CO2 for the fuel tank durability. This helps with the whole getting on set on fire thing, but it only helps if your fuel tanks get hit. Normally I find I set on fire because my engine gets hit, so that's not very helpful. And finally, toolbox. Nah. So if I were to pick out of these, I would probably go for coated optics for a bit more view range. What else? Maybe improve vents. I'll just generally buff it all round. Spore liner maybe. Torsion bars maybe. Gun ram maybe. There's a few maybes in there. So what do I think about this overall? I don't like it, in case you haven't already guessed. I've been umming and ahhing throughout this whole bleeding review, trying to sweeten up the news that I think this thing's rubbish. I don't think it's a very good tank. Who do I recommend buy this? No one. I would not honestly inflict the German light tank line upon anyone. If you want to play German light tanks, fine. Play German light tanks. Do yourself a favour, stop at tier 4. The Panzer 1C is a lot of fun, the Panzer 2G can be a lot of fun, the Panzer 3A is a lot of fun, tier 3 light tanks, all a lot of fun. Panzer 2 can be a lot of fun, Panzer 1, it's alright. Looks, a lot of fun. Panzer 3, it's not, strictly speaking, I know, a light tank, but it's fast, it's mobile, it's actually a pretty good scout. So if you like the whole scouting thing, Panzer 3 is not a terrible idea. A lot of fun. Leopard, kinda naff. VK, kinda naff. Aufklärungspanther, from everything I've heard, it's bad. I haven't played it yet myself though. If you really want the Leopard, maybe you're better off going down this way. Getting into the VK 3001D, the 3002D, although I haven't heard good things about that, and then the Indian Panzer, the Leopard prototype, and the Leopard. Maybe that's a better way to go, but I wouldn't wish, certainly the Leopard and the VK, I wouldn't wish them on you. They're not particularly good. I mean, they're not atrocious. There are worse machines out there, but you wouldn't call them good. And the Aufklärungspanther, well, I can't really comment. I will have a review at some point once I've actually played it, but right now, I can't comment. So yeah, in a nutshell, what do I think? Well, bleh, I wouldn't buy it. It's not very good. I don't like it. I'm selling it. I don't think I'll ever rebuy it. I don't think I'll ever look at it again. The sooner it's out of my garage, the better, frankly. There we go. Sorry that was a bit of a down review, and I couldn't say anything nice about it. But it's just not very good. Anyway, hope you guys found it vaguely informative / entertaining. If you found it entertaining, maybe that says more about you than it does about me, I don't know. But there we go, whatever. If you did find it entertaining, then God only help you. Feel free to catch some of my other videos. I've got some other reviews floating around. And or subscribe to my channel. And I will catch you maybe on the battlefield. Either way, I wish you the best of luck. Ciao, ciao.